Hello, I'm Bill McMicken, and the topic of this video is TaskStream. This is an introduction video to TaskStream. When you go to the site, it's called TaskStream.com, and when you log in, you'll have an ID and a password to take you into the system. It turns out that within TaskStream there are a number of roles. You could be an author. This is what a student would typically be. The author of the various artifacts or things that get uploaded or submitted in TaskStream all come from the author. You can have reviewers. Reviewers are those who review items, but they do not actually create the final evaluation of the items. You could have peer reviews, or you could actually have a faculty who reviews them, or a writing tutor that reviewed them and provided feedback. It's not required to have a reviewer. You have evaluators. Every item that gets turned in has to be evaluated in some manner. It may be pass-fail. It may be that it's done according to a more complicated rubric. So every item or every artifact that is submitted actually has a rubric attached, which defines how the evaluator is to decide how to view that particular submission. And finally, you have an evaluation manager. Evaluation manager can have a number of roles, but if you have or require an item to be evaluated by at least 2 faculty members, then the evaluation manager can adjudicate the differences in evaluations. So this is the person that sits on top. This would also be called a program manager. There's one other kind of user in the system. It's the TaskStream coordinator. The TaskStream coordinator assigns privileges to folks. It basically sets the TaskStream coordinator sets up and works with the various programs. An evaluation manager might also have the privilege of setting up a program, but the TaskStream coordinator can do basically everything within the system. So as we look at TaskStream, we see we have a number of tabs across the top. We're going to talk primarily today to give you an idea about the setup of a program within the system. When you come into the system as an evaluator, you would actually see your programs listed below, the ones that are for you to evaluate. Basically, the idea behind a program is that when you come into a college, you sign up for a specific program, and that specific program has goals and objectives and standards for those goals and objectives, which are outlined in that program. So the initial thing you would do is you would actually define what are the standards of my program that have to be met. So later on, you can actually measure each student to how they're progressing and meeting those standards. Then you assign within the system, you assign submissions that specifically address those standards. So if I go in as TaskStream coordinator, I'm given the ability to build a program in a template format, then actually create a program from that template, and then deploy those once they're ready and active. If I go to Template Builder, and we go to Template Builder, I'm going to open an existing template that I'm working on called the Master Program Template. So within a template, you can have some formats to the various templates, but once you figure out what style you want to use, the second thing you do is you develop your structure. So this particular one has the items that will be submitted. Sometimes we call this the ribbon that goes across the top for the student. But essentially we can have divisions and subdivisions within it, and we have specific items that are submitted. if I were to click on a specific item or artifact, I'll get a definition of that artifact. If I were to, for instance, click on 2C here, philosophy of teaching, I not only get a definition of philosophy of teaching, but I also get the rubric and should have the standards that go with it. So over here under evaluation, we actually assign the rubrics that go with each one of those artifacts. We can also assign points. We don't have to assign points to it, but we can assign points to each item, which would total up to the overall value of the portfolio or the program itself. So the way it would actually measure progress is how many points you've earned towards your full submission, and if you've completed all the artifacts that are required. Once this has been completed, we finish a section like this, we save and continue, and then we have preferences. This is the preferences that allow us to say who gets to see what. For instance, when is the period that this is visible to the students or to the authors? Whether we allow the authors to see or not who is doing the evaluations. There's a whole series of these that get created. But once we've actually created that template, then we're ready to start a program. So I've created a program called Master Course here as an example. And the very first thing it gives us is a setup. So this particular program has a setup in it that defines how it runs. If we want to change that, we need to go back and change the template. So within the system, then the template defines which items have to be submitted, and we go in and we find that we can establish due dates. We can establish who is allowed to see it, visibility of the DRF, whether the evaluator can be seen or not, and whether the evaluator can know who the student is. So there's a number of settings in here. But we can actually define, for instance, the number of evaluators per submission. So I can say something has to have 2 evaluators, and I go in here and edit that and make it 2. Once that is defined for your program, then that becomes the standard for the entire program. That means all students will have the same rubrics and the same standards being evaluated for their program. And essentially, then once we've created this program, then we get to add students. Right now, I don't have any students. I have evaluators only. Evaluators and evaluator managers show up as an E and an M. I have myself down here as an author, so I could actually go ahead and submit an item. We decide whether we want an email going to the evaluator, and there can be groups of evaluators. So if you have 50 students, you could have a set of students go to Mary and another set go to Mary Garrity. Now, of course, they're in different programs, so that would never happen, but this is how the setup works in this sample course. And so I can then I can go into grouping. Grouping allows us to group by evaluator. So an evaluator would only see the students assigned to them. We assign resources. This is what kind of portfolio to use. At the end, once a student has completed their program, they can actually publish all their work to a portfolio that will remain accessible on the web. And then finally, the status of a program is whether it's been deployed or not. Now, that concludes this overview. Once you have a deployed program and log in, as an evaluator, you can pick things that you want to see. So you don't have to, for instance, you can just look at general information, I can just look at the required artifacts. I can just look at items being submitted under that artifact. So once you have decided what you want to look at, you can also look at just the people that are looking for evaluations, or all. When I hit, I'm going to just choose all for this. And this is what they sometimes refer to as the ribbon in the course. And again, at any point in time, you can just pick just the items that refer to the general background information, press go, and now I have just those items. I can also decide to include inactive users. I can look at only items looking for evaluation or items waiting for release. We'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks.